Oh, I do know my mic is working.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is a little. Is it
I know
bright?
it
I don't
looks
know.
looks
Too
a lot
close to the.
better.
Does it? But wait, no, we're not.
Looks a lot better
Not
in the
ready.
dark.
Okay. We all look better in
Not
the dark.
ready.
Okay. Let's see. And now we're gonna get this little guy over here.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
No. Okay.
No, no.
This way.
Yeah.
And then turning it around. Did we really? Did you hit live? Are we?
No, we didn't pick it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, we
Oh,
are.
we're
ending.
yeah, we're
God
live
damn
here.
it.
We're not live there.
All right. I don't know how to do this. Let's
Here.
just do it.
Put it on the stand first. Sorry, we wanted
Hi
everybody to see
everyone.
behind the
That's
scenes.
just ridiculous, as usual.
It's okay.
No, it's not okay.
Here, we're gonna do it like this because we're also gonna go live on Instagram, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah, you're gonna take it and like it. There we go. Oh, and it's a nice boob shot on Instagram, which is
if you
terrific.
don't if you don't
Okay,
want to see our
so
faces,
if you don't want to see our faces, you can just
Go to
go over to my
Instagram.
Nancy Roman ANCYROMM over at Instagram, and we've got a nice body shot. So, and that just light turned itself on. Okay, do it, girl. Oh man, I'm gonna end
I
this
know
stream. This
I'm
is
all
too
like
embarrassing.
Matt Welsh up in here.
What are you trying
Okay.
to do?
I'm trying to go
Trying
live.
to go live. Okay, you know what? We're gonna skip this because
Okay.
this is not working. Hi, I'm so sorry for that really bumbling preamble here. I'm Nancy Rommelman. We're back here at Paloma Media Studios. I haven't been here a month, so anybody that is fans of this channel, I'm sorry. We've all been traveling like crazy, and I was on the road for 3 weeks, and I am here with.
Hi, I'm Yael Bartour. I was also on the road for almost 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow, but we're back.
Well, we're back, and we're here today because what do we wind up talking about in these YouTubes? We wind up talking about what we're talking about amongst ourselves, and one thing that we've been talking about is policing and perception. I spent a lot of time on the ground on Portland last year covering the violence there. I've written about it. I was just in Portland again last week. Things actually were looking better, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And Yael, why don't you tell them what your expertise is here?
So I ran social media for the New York City Police Department. I was director of social media for the NYPD.
Closer to the
And
mic.
close to the mic, yeah, because people yell at us whenever
Yeah,
our sound is
and
bad.
even when we do the sound right, they yell at us because they like
Yeah.
to yell at us. And I'm fixing the curtain while you're introducing
These are
yourself.
toy microphones, by the
No,
way,
they're
from
not.
Chinatown.
They're very nice microphones. Yes.
So I am a policing and communications expert, and I work with police departments around the country to help them better engage with the public, which I argue is actually a very, very important part of policing nowadays because public perception is basically shaping everything from officer retention to recruitment to actual budget cuts that we see are being made based on Twitter frenzy and not real, thorough policy.
We
And I'm also going to try to do the Instagram.
Okay, so I think that most people that are paying attention to the news understand that homicide, violent crime is up in the country, and it's been up in the country since last year. Some people have tried to blame it on COVID. It actually doesn't track back. If you look at the data, it does not track back to COVID. It tracks back to the killing of George Floyd. And it was after George Floyd was killed that the spike in crime went up, and it has stayed that way. It has stayed that way in major cities, where in most major cities, homicide is up, as is violent crime. And this is presenting a bit of a conundrum when we have been living for the past year and a half under pretty vocal defund the police situations. So, I mean, we'll get into the specifics of this, but sort of just where the rubber hits the road is police they're getting money taken away. They are not, well, the perception is that they are not liked or appreciated in cities. That's actually really, really not true. I think there's a whole class of people that don't like the police, but what were you just saying that you saw when you were out and about in terms of people coming up to the police and saying, thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you?
yeah. I mean, people do appreciate the police. Time after time, when you look at Pew Research and just general research, there's some fluctuation, but generally speaking, across the board, there is appreciation of police. But there is this perception in the very kind of online class and the political class that police are underappreciated, and it definitely affects the way people work, right? And I've seen people kind of talk about that a little bit on social media and say, well, the police should be able to do their job even if they're not liked and even if people are angry at them, which is true.
Which is true.
But, something to take into consideration, because if you work in a place where you're feeling underappreciated, you're probably not going to, feel great about going there every day.
And you also, I mean, I saw it on the ground. I wrote a little bit about it today. When you are, you are running all around the city, not just doing your usual job, but you are also, whether you're, chasing activists around or you're trying to put out a fire that they set, you're
A literal fire.
a literal fire. You're stretched pretty thin, and you're also then being told that you're the problem. I had a girl in Portland last year. She's about 20 years old, young girl, who I told her I was working with Reason Magazine. I was talking about what's going on, and she screamed in my face, "The police are killing all our black friends in the street!" And then she ran off. And I was like, well, in fact, at that point in Portland, there had been two police murders. They had murdered or killed two citizens, both of whom were white. So really, what she believed did not have any basis in reality, but that is what is the belief that, all our black friends are being killed in the streets. And if this were indeed true, I can completely understand saying, what the fuck do we have police for? This is like, we got to get rid of this. Well, it's not true, but don't confuse me with the truth.
There's also the notion of, kind of related to that, the notion of, don't call 911 or don't call 311 because you're putting black people in danger, or you're putting people in danger, which I hear a lot nowadays. But again, it's not grounded in reality. So no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, if you actually look at the hard facts and take the most conservative or the most liberal range of views, the people that you're putting at risk, quote unquote, by calling 911, calling 301, is just insignificant compared to the people that you're potentially helping. But that's a very common view now. It's like, don't call the police.
It's gonna lead us into our first little story we're gonna talk about. And by the way, we put some links in the show notes, which is good. We may not be ready at the beginning, but we're getting a little better there.
Yeah, it only took us like 45 minutes.
To figure that, type the. But our chat, if you guys are asking questions, we can't see it because I'm just too stupid to figure that out. I don't know how to do that. Maybe you can figure that out.
Or you can tweet at us too.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Anyway, one of the stories we want to talk about in terms of policing, obviously one of the loudest cities about this has been Portland, Oregon. They have taken some money away from the police department last year. They disbanded it's sort of a gang violence task force. That was gone. They took that money away. And then recently, the entire what is called Rapid Response Team. Rapid Response Team is a volunteer group of officers that they train specifically how to handle riots and crowd control within a riot. And because one of their members was indicted recently, and I have to say, I've written about this, I substacked about this, and the video's not great. Like, he used his nightstick, he pushed this girl down, this photographer, she's an activist journalist, and then he, like, for good measure, he pushed his stick in her face. So not great. He was indicted. The entire Rapid Response Team resigned. And there was I had a Deep Throat talk to me in Portland. There was some sense like, well, what's going to happen now? Is Portland going to, is there going to be more explosion? Are people that want to cause mayhem, are they going to get out there and take advantage of this now because they know that the people that usually corral them are not around? Well, and then it was also like, well, the Proud Boys are going to be like, yo, man, if Portland can't police itself, we're going to get in there and police for it. And then Antifa's going to come out. Well, in fact, you know what happened? Those two groups met in a park and bear sprayed each other and dissipated, which I was saying, things are actually getting better in Portland.
Which I learned in Montana is pretty expensive bear spray.
It is. I bought some bear spray in Montana a couple years ago. It's quite expensive.
You can't travel with it. You can't take it on the plane.
My husband had to sit in the car with him right now because he's traveling. But in any case, so what's happening in Portland? The police force is really, there have been so many retirements and so many people just leaving the force, and you can't get people to want to join the force because kind of like, why would you if you're constantly told you are part of the problem and we don't want you, we want to take away your money, and then they stand in the street and spit in their faces and squeeze the little piggy toys, and then they're running around like trying to get the activists so they can't actually respond to you when your car is being broken into. I mean, You can read about this over and over and over. So what was announced this week? One of the most sort of progressive commissioners, there's 5 city commissioners, Joanne Hardesty, she's called for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission for Portland officers. She wants them all to go up and testify as to like their wrongs and everything. By the way, this is the same Joanne Hardesty that called 911 when she was having a disagreement with her Lyft driver or her Uber driver, one of them. Yes, she was in a parking lot at a casino just over the river in Vancouver, Washington, and she was waiting at the wrong entrance. He finally found her, and then I don't know if she wanted the window down or up. There was some like minor thing, and he was finally like, "Lady, get out of the car," and she called the police. I mean, but she wants to defund the police. That she wants this sort of like, apartheid kind of Truth and Reconciliation Committee. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. My feeling is that it's not going to go anywhere because things were better in Portland when I was there. People were not out in the streets every night. People were wanting to get back to their lives. And I do not think she's got I don't think there's the groundswell of support that there was last year. So that's good. Doesn't make the cops' jobs any easier for the moment.
And we were talking about earlier that a lot of these measures suggested by city councils or that you see come up in police departments are really kind of theater or kind of a political play, because at the end of the day, if you want to resolve the issues, if you want public safety together with police accountability, it's never going to be as sexy as I'm going to open a commission or I'm going to cut the budget of this. At the end of the day, you have to do real work on the ground, and that work has it's compromise, it's boring, it's policy, and that's never going to get you as many likes or as many votes or as much time on CNN as something like this committee would do.
Or what else did we have happen in Minneapolis? I think it was on Sunday. Do you want to go into this?
These are the things. So, just when you think you can't get angrier at social media, you see something and your jaw just drops, or my jaw dropped. So, we see these protests going on throughout the country, getting sometimes pretty aggressive in terms of people blocking traffic. And this council member, who I believe is the first
she's trans, she's black, she's trans.
Member.
Pretty progressive. When I was reporting from Minneapolis during the Derek Chauvin trial, a lot of people said to me, "Yeah, she's kind of wants to be part of the solution, but she's also part of the problem." But I don't know. She was a little more progressive than she certainly appeared in the car.
Oh, well, she was stopped by activists or whatever you want to call them. Activist is a very generous term. Who wouldn't let her leave, I think for a couple hours, until she signed a piece of paper that I would love to see the court that would uphold that piece of paper.
None.
That basically said
list of demands.
List of demands. Anything from don't prosecute anyone from looting, to disband the police force, to give me like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Well, it was the one quote that I heard the guy saying, who was like the main guy that was streaming it on Facebook, and we do have a link to a small news report about it here. Was saying that the police should come under the aegis or the jurisdiction of Black citizens. I mean, this is like, well, okay, that's a little broad, isn't it? Like what are you actually trying to do here? Which is when you're saying this is performative. This is not being thought of even 2 steps ahead.
You're also assuming that there is such a thing as Black citizens or ethnic groups, and there's been some really interesting writing about this lately, and people who I think there was just some really interesting research done that showed that a lot of minorities actually don't hold progressive views, which I think a lot of us would answer and say, duh.
Hi. Okay, anybody go to Vice News and see Michael Moynihan's report from Texas. It was beautiful last month, talking to Hispanic citizens that live along the border and their views. I mean, look at what happened with the voting in Florida. Look.
Who is the Black community?
There is no
Hispanic community.
There is no what's like saying women. Women vote.
I'm like 5 women on any given day.
It's also ridiculous. And if you go especially into neighborhoods where crime tends to be happening a lot of the times, it is more neighborhoods of color. And you know what? Of course you're going to find people there that don't like the police and would like maybe less policing. But in the main, you're not. You're going to be like, actually, I'd like something fixed here. If I need to call the cops, that they're going to be able to show up.
In my career in law enforcement, which hasn't been very long, but definitely 7 years if I consider my consulting, I've never heard of any community ask for less policing. You can ask for better policing, But if you live in a high crime neighborhood, you're not asking for less bodies, less cops on the
And
street.
this is what Yael and I were talking about this morning. It's like people that want to that claim police dehumanize the public and whatever and are bad. Their solution is to dehumanize police. It's like no, this is destruction.
So
You need to have discussion here. So yes, I think even police will agree. We've talked to a lot of police officers, you especially. Can there be improvements? Oh my God, yes.
Of course,
Of course.
cops
That's-
want improvements more than anyone else. People don't want to have shitty jobs or shitty officers working with them.
But that's not you don't when you pass a piece of paper after you're stopping someone's car for 2 hours. I mean, she literally was a hostage. Go and look at this video. She's standing there. I mean, she's saying to them, "Look, I cannot make decisions sitting here on a Sunday afternoon in a hot car after a pride parade, and you're handing me some list."
It wasn't Pride; it was Reclaim Pride, by the way, which
Oh,
is the
sorry.
the Pride parade that says no, we don't want to celebrate Pride, we want to riot.
Oh,
That was
Wow.
Reclaim Pride. Yeah.
okay. I see. I didn't even know that. But she did. You know what? She did wind up signing it, and then they're like, "Oh, we need you to date it or something like that."
Yeah, we need to print
Because-
your name.
Because just to get out of there, this is holding someone hostage. Of course, it doesn't hold any water. What is this? This is just completely childlike. Here's my manifesto. So that's not real. That's not progress at all.
And the
all.
outrage is double for me, at least. It's the outrage of this even happening, but it's also the outrage about the lack of outrage, and the fact that things like this have been going on in our cities for well over a year, and it's just something that's not talked about in polite society because we see certain people as kind of on the good side or on the right side of history, and while there's definitely a lot to be said about police reform and making police more accountable and police more effective, just because people have, their hearts in the right place doesn't mean that we shouldn't call out these tactics, especially if we're people who believe that there needs to be some kind of change.
I think you do. So let's get to there. We've got two.
We have questions here, but I
We
can't
do?
read that far because
Where? Oh,
they're on Instagram.
okay.
Well, I can do. Do you
can't
want to
that.
read and I'll tell the Instagram story, or the other way around?
Okay, yeah, I'll read what it says.
Okay, you read. I'll tell the
Questions
Instagram
are: the
story.
Pacific Northwest has become the far left, deep south, and people have just joined. The Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Portland, and probably San Francisco to a certain extent. There are some issues. There's this sort of dynamic tension, but I gotta tell you, I saw it loosening in Portland. I saw that people really did want to get back to their lives. I saw stores opening. I did not see there was not there weren't the riots and the violence in the streets every night. I mean, that's progress. And you can only it's like to keep that flame burning, you have to have an enemy you all agree on. And right now, the enemies have changed. You don't have Trump there to be mad at anymore, right? The mayor is trying to. He hasn't been so effective, but he's actually trying to make things a little better. And the DA is arresting people, and it's just I think the air is kind of going out of it. So we've got a couple more stories that we linked to that are both pretty heartbreaking. Let's get first to the one in Washington Square Park. Was it Washington Square Park?
Yeah,
The two
yeah, it
officers?
was near Washington Square Park. And this is not a kind of breaking news story, but it's just something that I saw on Instagram that really just honestly kind of made me sad. And I'll share it with everyone. We put it in the notes as well. But it's actually something that my friend came across because it was a photo from somebody who appeared to be a gay activist of two police officers, and it looked really nice because both the police officers had it was at a pride march, and one of the police officers had makeup on, and it started out really beautiful because this activist was talking about these police officers that he met and how great they were, and how just telling their story and how they're supportive of gay rights, and one of these things that you start reading, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a feel-good story, and then at the end of the post that we've shared here, he says, and then just 20 minutes later, police officers, a force of 36,000 people, not these two police officers, but police officers, attacked people with batons in Washington Square Park. Now, never mind that these people were overcoming barricades and graffitiing and harassing vendors and all these things. But to that gentleman who wrote that post, he took that as a sign to say, and this is what I say when I mean all cops are bastards. Just because I met, don't fool yourself. Just because I met two cops that I liked or that were, positive and were making a change doesn't mean they're not part of an oppressive system. And it was just depressing to me because we're never going to get anywhere if we don't recognize and encourage progress. And if we see something good in front of our eyes and then put something bad next to it and say, well, this good is completely irrelevant now because bad exists as well, it's just not a great way to go about policing. It's not a great way to go about life.
We should also just, and we may have talked about this, I don't remember, it's been so long since we've been in this room. I can't remember, you will remember the organization that did not allow New York City police or gay police.
Heritage of Pride, the Pride Parade that the NYPD had a wonderful relationship with.
They wouldn't let gay officers or any officers march with them.
And this year. This is actually a great point about perception because I have a lot of gay cop friends, as everybody does, I'm assuming. But
I do now.
You do now. But we go to the theater all the time. At least we did before the pandemic. But I would march with them every year for work and also as a supporter, and mostly because it was really, really fun.
Okay. Can I tell you, as someone who has watched this parade, I grew up in New York City, the gay cops walking in the Pride Parade was like the shit. Let me tell you, people went bananas. Like it was so good.
And
It was
heartwarming.
exciting. I'm like, I have bumps, right?
And people love seeing. And by the way, it's not just the Gay Officer Action League there. It is a police commissioner, it's an entire police marching band that marches with the pride flag and with actually the last few years they've marched with the trans flag as well. So say what you will about people not wanting cops in their street and defunding, but the love that these cops are greeted with and the love that they give back to people is really, when we talk about healing, there it is. It's right there. And by the way, cops in Toronto every year would come to march in New York in their beautiful red uniforms because they were banned from Toronto a few years ago.
So now the New York police have been banned for 5 years in New York. So how is this progress? And what was the justification? Well, because we're afraid. We're afraid of these cops marching with us. You're marching in the middle of New York City with 20,000 people marching and millions of people watching, and you're afraid that a cop is going to do something to you because you're gay or trans. This doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense at all.
You would think you'd be more afraid of crime or terrorism or any other thing that could happen, the Pride Parade that the police would protect you from. But I have to say, it was so disappointing and so depressing for these cops and really for everyone at NYPD. And it took everybody a step back to the point where now when the NYPD posts on social media things about celebrating Pride, in past years you would get a few old retired cops who would be like, men are men, women are women, all that, and everybody would ignore them. But now it actually brings out the hate on the other side too, because now you have a lot of people more on the right leaning side who are saying, why are we celebrating Pride? Pride said no to cops. So not only is it excluding police officers, so it's also kind of antagonizing everyone
You're
else.
Creating more division. Which, someone said to me the other day, they're like, well, Nancy, don't you realize that this is like a master plan? I'm like, a master plan of who? But okay, whatever. I don't particularly believe in.
Is this what Q wanted?
Yeah, it's Q's power. The Elders of Zion. I don't know, something, right?
It's me.
It's you. But so the next story we're going to get to is truly heartbreaking. But the justification sometimes that people have for this is like, well, on the road to progress, there are going to be some speed bumps. Like on the road to better policing, we'll just have to live with a higher homicide rate.
Well, AOC said that the other day, right?
I don't know.
Oh, AOC said the other day, let's not bring hysteria to the discussion about rising crime.
And it's like, communism would work if we just did it better, right? It's like, no, it won't. It can't. And the idea that you were going to get better policing by, by further demonizing the police and not giving them the tools that they need to protect people, because kind of, guys, that's the job they signed up with, is it's not going to work. And the idea that, well, you just have to suffer through, we just got to suffer through a few more murder spikes, and then we'll get to the other side, and the people will be, everything's going to be better. And that takes us to the story that you showed me today. Now, explain who sent this to you and what he said.
Well, it's something I happened to come across on Twitter, and I shared on my Twitter of a police chief in Oakland talking about defunding and budget cuts. And one of the things that is important to understand when people talk about budget cuts and defunding is a lot of the budget, a vast majority of budget goes to personnel. So when you have budget cuts, you have less cops on the street. That's literally what happened in New York. They had to cancel an academy class. And this police chief in Oakland, which is, pretty high crime, happens to be African American, gives this impassionate speech, almost tearing up, or I think tearing up at some point, and saying, when you talk about bumps in the road, when you talk about speed bumps, those bumps in the road are 65 lives
This year
we
so far.
lost
This year so far.
this year
In Oakland.
to gun violence in Oakland, or to any type of violence. And you see people who are trying to make a difference, and for some reason we're telling them that they have to try to keep this city safe or make a difference or do better, right? What people love to say, do better, but with less resources. And that just, in no world does that make sense. In no world has anybody gotten better by shaming them or taking away their resources.
And one of the people, I guess he was related to, he said it was his god sister or something like that, but it doesn't matter. These are people's lives. Like, this is very academic to the people that are saying, like, well, yeah, defund the police. When I was in
Or we'll take the hit of the speed bumps.
these are people's lives. These are children. I mean, if you're interested in this, go and look at not just like the person that is killed by a police officer, which of course we hear about, right? But go look at all the kids, like little kids, mostly black kids, that are getting shot and killed. Like, go look at what's happening in communities that you want to, like, let's get rid of more police. All right, well, are you going to fix this? Because you're not. You're not fixing it. You might be getting your anger out by, I don't know why you're so angry at the police. Look at the data and have that correspond. Like the real data, not just your emotional data, the things that you think your friends have told you that is correct. Go look at actually what the statistics are, when the crime started happening, where it's happening, who it's happening to, and in what cities, and correlate that with what's being taken away from the force and how people are leaving the force. And let's try to come up with better, like actual discussions and solutions, not slogans. Okay, all cops are bastards is an idiotic slogan. I mean, it's moronic. It doesn't make any sense. It's like all teachers are bastards, all women are bastards. It doesn't make any sense.
It's also so juvenile.
It's so juvenile, and it's so incurious. Like, it's truly incurious. And
it's easy.
Oh, and people want it super easy because then they can go off and feel super great. Like, I'm on the right side. Well, no, you're not. You want to be on the right side? Do some actual thinking, okay? Do some actual thinking, some research. Come on here and ask us questions. Come on here and be a guest. Come on and tell us your side of why you really believe. But if you want, and I'm super happy to listen to it, always. But I really want to have the conversation. I don't want just slogans, because slogans doesn't fix anything, okay? It gives you a label that you can feel super like, I'm part of some team, but that's not fixing the problem or getting back those 65 lives in Oakland.
And it's okay to react emotionally to things, right? We all do. I mean, obviously we're angry. If somebody comes up to me, especially, if somebody African American comes up to me and says, I'm afraid of cops, I can spill out numbers till I'm blue in the face. But if somebody has a fear, I respect that. I respect people's emotional reaction to things. But when we're looking at policy and we're looking at making people's lives better and keeping people safe, we can't base these policies on on tweets and on emotional reaction. That's not what we elected our elected officials for.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Well, we're going to be back hopefully next week because we're both in town. We're not driving all around the country.
Yay.
I put 5,000 miles on my new car.
Oh
That
wow,
was awesome.
I flew in a lot of planes.
Okay. Guys, thanks.
Probably have Delta variant COVID now or whatever it is.
Because you were flying Delta?
Yeah, or you have
Is that where you get
too
it?
now. Well, no, I think I got it from like being on a very crowded plane.
Oh, you're not sick.
Well, if I am, you are.
All right. Well, no tongue kissing for us. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back. And, just to get you a little excited, we got some fun things coming up at Paloma. So stay tuned here and otherwise.
Oh, and if you want us to talk about anything else, obviously, I don't know if you can tell, but this isn't very planned. So we're just kind of talking
Really?
about
Shocking.
We just after we spent 45 minutes typing in the links that we wanted to share with you. If there's anything you want us to talk about, we're going to try to bring in guests as well. So
Yes.
find us on Twitter.
Yep. I'm Nancy Rom, NancyRomm.
I'm Yael BT. And tell us what you want us to talk about.
Yep.
Hopefully, cities opening up, and we'll bring in some people to the
Yep.
studio too.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.
All right, bye, Nancy.